Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining McKay. Thanks for joining Kevin. I really appreciate you making your time in your day.
Happy to be here.
So this is the first issue of AFA Today, and AFA Today is going to be a new series that we do that explores the purpose and the people and the vision of the American Fence Association. And I think what two better people that can do this is somebody that represents kind of the grassroots effort and the grassroots side of things, the things that are happening out in the chapters. And Kevin, you'll take that perspective. And McKay, who better than to have the national president standing in and saying, this is what we stand for, and this is the direction that we're going. So I really appreciate both of you making the time to be here today.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited that we're kicking this off. AFA Today is going to be a new regular scheduled program that is going to communicate to all of you out there and share what we're doing on a regular basis. So thanks.
Perfect. So let's talk, as we get started, a little bit of why we're doing this series. So I think that when people think about American Fence Association is a lot of times they think about what's happening right now, or they think about the experience that they had, and they don't realize that the organization was started in 1962 to solve problems. In Southern California, there was a Portland cement shortage, and contractors and suppliers came together to solve that problem. And they recognized that there was a need for the industry to have a regular meeting of organizational leaders to make a difference and solve problems in the industry. And that's what they started to do. So this whole thing started to solve a problem. And throughout our entire history, that's what we do, whether it's gate safety standards and improving the safety of automated gates. Now the initiatives that we're doing in terms of manual gates and the way we're trying to increase safety there, or the opportunity to bring people together at Fence Tech, our premier meeting for the year. It's all about how do we bring people together on both sides of the table, the supplier side and on the contracting side, to make a difference. So I'd ask the two of you, as we get started, how do you see it play out, this collaboration between the supplier side and the contractor side?
You want to go first, Kevin?
Yeah, I was going to say, either which way. Mike, you said a lot of things I didn't know just there. It takes both, right? It takes a village. So I don't know if it would make any sense to have I just don't know how you can move the industry forward without having both parties involved, right? I think we should talk about us on our best day. If we dream that dream, there's really good alignment between supplier and installer, right? So I just don't know how you move an industry without having both seats at the table.
Yeah, both are very critical. I mean, without our suppliers, we don't have the new products, the new innovations, the new ideas, and many times we don't have the funds to put on something like Fence Tech and to do some of the gatherings and some of the chapter meetings that we do. Without the boots on the ground, without the contractors, we don't have an industry. And so we've got to complement each other. And I like how you began this, Michael, that the AFA started to solve a problem. And we're still solving those problems today, whether that's you are an owner operator and got a small operation and you've got a challenge. Well, there's people in your chapter, there's suppliers putting on education, there's AFA has education to help you solve your problem. If you are a vendor or a supplier and you've got a problem, the people are there to help you solve those problems and give you the ideas to come up with the next iteration or innovation of a product. So solving problems is what we're all about.
Absolutely. And doing it in a way that where people are uplifting each other. And I think that's also a core value or a core piece of what makes AFA unique and special, is that we do that problem solving and people develop these longstanding relationships that are uplifting and make them feel good about their contributions to their competitors, yes, sometimes, or their customers, or this idea that a very large manufacturer can be in the same room with an owner operator of a small company, and they can have insights for one another that that spark that creative genius and to solve problems. So
yeah, I even think that by networking within the AFA and you get to know people from different chapters, different areas of the country, I've heard so many contractors say that they were not ready to go ask a competitor about a situation or solve a problem, but it was pretty easy to call somebody that was across the country that they've made a relationship with to help solve that problem.
So the other piece of this series is to communicate the value proposition, and that's a fancy way of saying what's in it for me as an individual member. So we talk as association professionals, we talk about increasing the value proposition, and so we're scanning the association environment for good ideas that come from other organizations to bring them in. But really, the value proposition means different things to different people. And so we touched on it a little bit. The value proposition for a large supplier is going to be built probably around fence tech and the opportunity to gain more customers. The value proposition for a smaller owner operator is going to look completely different, and it might be those personal relationships that they build at the chapter level. But everybody's going to have a different what's in it for me. For some, it's enough for them to say, I'm a member of AFA, and put their logo on their invoices, or put the logo on their truck, or put their logo on their website. That's enough from their membership. Others, in terms of their evaluation, they want to be able to kind of drink from the fire hose of everything that we offer. And so you see this all the time. They use the logo on their marketing materials. They get involved in education. And they start to do certifications, and then they go even further and start to volunteer at the chapter at the national level. So their value proposition looks very different than that person who's only looking to say, hey, I'm affiliated with my national organization. And then finally, you have those people who say, I need a direct return on my investment. One of the things that I love about the way we structure our dues is that you pay a relatively nominal fee based on the size of your business. You know, a small owner operator is paying $365. You pay a relatively small amount, and then you have the option to add, to go to fence tech, to go to training, to participate in education programs. It's, in my mind, this is a good model for how wide our constituencies are. So I just like your thoughts in terms of the value proposition. And Kevin, as a contractor, where do you fit in terms of your value proposition? And then McKay, I'd ask you the same thing.
Oh boy. I'm going to go off the rails here. Yeah. I mean, for me, yeah, I think, and I don't want to run off script here. Maybe we said, I think it's really important to say who we are. Like I, for one, know nothing about McKay Lundgren, and I work with him. I also know very little about you. So maybe we do that at the end, but nobody knows anything about me. So for me, I built my company, and I was historically the anti-AFA guy. Like, all of the sentiment of one of those videos that got us here is who I am. I was wholly dismissive of the AFA. We weren't even a member because we stopped paying, because it's like, what's the value? And I was, in doing that, right, the saying goes, like, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So I started bitching. Sorry to say, I don't know if we're going to curse on this thing, but I started complaining about it. And I said to myself, you're either going to be you're going to do something about it, or you're just going to do nothing about it. Right. And so I went to one meeting, and as the story goes, I was elected chapter president shortly thereafter. And I came, I came in full of piss and vinegar. Really, I'm like, listen, I've scaled the company from 10 to 120 people. Like, I'm gonna turn this association on its head. It's been miserable. It's been miserable. You remember my first email, Michael? Like, I was ready to change the world. Like, all of my competitors were all going to be dude, I can't get people to show up at a meeting. I cannot get people to show up at a meeting. Like, and it's hard. It's really hard. So what we have is thousands, literally thousands of contractors upset in an association they're unwilling to participate in. It doesn't make sense, right? And so my value proposition is, like, absolutely, wholly and solely, like, we're better together, right? If we're fellow fencers in our markets, in our national, if we're to lift, a rising tide is so true. you can't do it without an effective association. And guess what? You can't have an effective association if you don't get participation. Like, this is the chicken and the egg thing. And I truly believe this, and I didn't until I got involved, is like, you can't be the change you want to see in the world until you have people there. So like, you cannot create value until people show up. And so my mission was very vast, like, and I can't even remember all the things I wanted to do, because my mission has gone way more narrow. Is like, I just want to get contractors in a room that are talking about things that Illinois, like for me, Illinois is our main market. Like, I want all the bigs and all the littles in there so the bigs can mentor the littles instead of pushing them down. And I think it's terrible, right? If we had if in fencing our idea was the big guys need to mentor the little guys, everything would get better. But like, we have this scarcity mindset where the big guys don't want the little guys in their pond, so we're not going to help them. And you know how stupid that is? That's how they end up cheap and ruining your market, is because you won't help them. So I don't know, outside of an effective association, how we improve the competitive landscape. So my value proposition is very simple. Like, get involved, or just accept that you don't care enough to get involved. And that's why I'm here. And I'll be the first to admit, yeah, I haven't delivered a lot of value to my, I'm trying like hell. I mean, I really am trying. And it's hard to make change. So for all the naysayers of the AFA, like, give a little credit to the people that sacrifice their time, because it is a volunteer-led organization. Obviously, Michael, you're on the payroll, which is effective because you're a good leader, and that's why we're here, right? That's necessary. But I just say, like, we can't be any change that we want to see in the world unless we can come together, get in a room once a quarter, and like talk about problems. So I don't know if I answered your question. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the AFA has helped my business in any way, but it's relatively ineffective because there's not a lot of us doing anything. And like, I think a lot of what our critics would say is valid, right? Everything I think Mark said holds weight, but we can't do it unless we have an effective association. And everything that we want to do, we can do if we come together. So I won't get into what I would like to see, because I could probably spill the whole 40 minutes, but at the infancy is like, we got to get together. We have to get together. And your most bitter competitor, and this is true, I wanted to punch a dude in the face. I hated him. He was my big when I was coming up, and he got me kicked out. He was a mother effer. Like, I don't hate many people. I don't hold any malice. And because I said I'm going to be the chapter leader, I had to shake the dude's hand. I said, I had to bury that hatch. It's over. I still think we're better than him, and we're going to compete, but like, we're going to do it in a totally different way, where if he sees me low screwing up a job, maybe he'll call me now, right? Instead of like getting me kicked off that job, he'll call me, and maybe I'll voluntarily say, hey, yeah, we missed that. Let's give it to him. Let's just let him have that job, because we're not in the business of ruining our market, right? That's only done through, and he doesn't attend the meetings. He just went to the golf outing, and I had to shake his hand because I couldn't in good conscience hate a fellow fencer at a golf outing. So that's maybe not great, but that's the truth. It's like, get fencers in the room and good shit will happen. Period. End of sentence. But if you're not willing to get in the room, stop complaining, because you're part of the problem by the definition, right? So, sorry.
I think that was good. So McKay, what's the value proposition from your perspective? And I think Kevin raised a good point. Tell somebody just a sentence or two about you and your experience, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
So yeah, I'm McKay Lundgren. I'm the current president of the American Fence Association. And, I came into this industry kind of through the back door. My father-in-law invented a product and started selling it in the 90s. And they've been to every fence tech since 1992. And that's all they did. They went to Fence Tech and sold the product and went home. They never associated with a chapter or anything like that. They decided to sell the company, and so in 2007, my wife and I bought Siren Operated Sensors, and we became, part of the gig. So I fell into what they did, my in-laws, and I went to Fence Tech, and that's all I did. And for the first 6 years, that's all my exposure was with the association, was a place to go sell my wares and connect with people. And 2013 rolled around, and I found out there was a Rocky Mountain chapter, and I got involved in the chapter. And then I became chapter president, and we did great things and had wonderful times and did service projects. And then I had the opportunity to be on the national board and be part of that and see all the great things that the association is doing and the problems we're solving and the people we're helping to become better at their business. And so I entered this because, I wanted to leave a job that I was traveling all the time and I could be home with my family a little more, but it was a way to feed my family is why I took the job and why we bought the company. Well, it has transformed from that to a whole career and lifestyle now. Some of my best friends are in the American Fence Association. Some of the relationships I've developed are in the association, and I've made that through there. And so my value proposition is every time I go to a chapter event now, or go to Fence Tech, or go to, even when I go to a sales outing with one of my distributors, and they're bringing people in, they are all my friends in that room.
Right.
And that has elevated my whole experience, that now it's much more than a job to me and just feeding my family. I have got an outlet that I can give back and be part of something greater.
Well, that's fantastic. So let's kind of sum up this section about talking about the purpose. You both articulated a really clear purpose, but the mission of the organization is to benefit industry professionals and consumers by promoting the highest levels of professionalism, ethics, and education, and the education and certification of its members. And that's kind of a large concept, and it's an inclusive. And I like to articulate it down to really two elements. We're about industry growth, and we grow the industry in two ways. We grow the industry by creating new opportunities for people to connect and be innovative and creative. And then we focus on individuals. So it doesn't matter whether you're that small owner operator, or you've just been promoted into a lead estimator, or that you belong to a very large, the staff of a very large distributor. You have a place to help grow yourself and grow the industry. So as we kind of wrap up this first segment, I'd wonder what your reaction to the purpose of the organization is, and just kind of summarize it in a sentence or two, so that people get a sense of these are real members talking about why what the purpose of the organization is.
McKay, you want to go, or you want me to go?
Yeah. So I guess the purpose for me comes down to things like the Hummingbird Alliance, where we have a little boy that was killed by a gate. And you know what? We just cannot afford to have that happen ever again. And it has happened since then. But we've got to do a better job of taking care of what we do in such a professional manner that our industry isn't hurting any little child or any person in general. For me, that's what we're all trying to coalesce around. And those that jump in and work hard, it's been a way to provide a great living for thousands of our members.
Thanks.
Michael, can you give me the AFA, sorry, the AFA, the purpose statement of the AFA? I want to relate my why to your why. And
Yeah, the mission. So the mission of the organization is to benefit industry professionals and consumers by promoting the highest levels of professionalism, ethics, and the education and certification of its members. So that's the mission.
Got it. We'll in a separate episode, I'm gonna push on your mission versus your vision versus your purpose, because I'm big on purpose. Like everything's purpose. Like Simon Sinek's, if they haven't read it, everybody needs to read. I think it's The Power of Why. I think that book is so huge. I'm a big why guy. Everybody at my company knows why we exist, and so for me, the why is very simple. Like I identify with, what would I say? How would I say it? I'm trying to. The difficulty of our industry. I think I see a lot of problems, and I want to build a better climate for good companies to prosper and small companies to get what I'm gonna use the proverbial get there, right? To get there sooner. It's such a
Yep.
grind. And I think our industry is littered with this story. Like, all the fence contractors sucked as owners, so then all the fence installers became owners, and then like most of our industry is a bunch of fence installers trying to figure out how to be business owners, and it all started because we had bad leadership, right? And so I think it's a travesty. If I'm being honest, it's a travesty that we don't have better leadership. And I don't think this is our industry alone. I could talk to you guys about 6
Yep.
other industries,
Yep.
healthcare being the first one, right, that have the same problem of bad leadership. But so I want to see a better climate for all contractors. The construction industry is super broken, and I don't think it has to be that way. So that's why I'm involved. And I think if we can demonstrate what a healthy business climate is in Illinois, I think everybody hopefully can follow us. And I say this right now: I have not demonstrated effective chapter leadership to this point, and but I'm going to keep trying. We're going to get more than 10 people at a meeting. That's my goal now. It used to be 100. Now we're down to 10, and then we'll get to 20. But anyway, yeah. That was a long way of saying, yeah, I just want to create a better environment for the small guys to succeed, and the big guys that should be big, that are doing good work, to be recognized. And I think we can do that through the AFA.
I appreciate that. And leadership is an important part of, as both of you guys know, my background is in leadership development and how to create leaders. And so I also see that as a major purpose of the why. In my mind, when we talk about growing, there's a lot that gets built into that grow, that articulating that grow. It's economic growth, but also what it is personal growth. And if you can I like the idea of getting there quicker. If we can teach people to get there quicker in their careers and to see this as a long-term career, we've accomplished in large part, what our mission drives us to do. All right, so I appreciate that. I want to move really quickly and walk through. There's a lot of question about how AFA is led, and we use this term AFA as a volunteer-led organization. But AFA has a staff, and they have there's a board responsibility, there is a staff responsibility, and then there's the grassroots and the chapter responsibility. So I'd like to spend about 5 minutes on this particular section and just talk about the board of directors. So McKay, how would you explain the role, as president of the board, how would you explain the role of the board of directors?
The board of directors runs the association. Typically, we get together with the chapter presidents at mid-year, and we really dive down into the strategic plan and where we want to take the organization. And we give some marching orders to the staff. The staff then usually has a staff planning meeting in the fall, and they start to put the nuts and bolts of how we're going to get to where the board wants us to go. And then we meet in October for a budget meeting and provide the resources and the money to get the work done. And then we have regular meetings throughout the year. We got board meetings once a month that we're continually getting feedback and providing new direction and directives to the staff. But it's a volunteer-led organization. Michael and the staff are there to execute on what we have asked them to do. And it's not me, it's not even the executive committee, it's the board. We vote on things and then we move forward with it. As far as what we're going to spend money on, what initiatives we're going to push, what we're going to pull back on, how we're going to lead, and then Michael and the rest of the staff do a great job of implementing that for us.
And then Kevin, but your perspective in terms of how the chapters play, the role of the chapters in terms of leading the organization.
Yeah, I want to do one thing, and maybe I'm very much a blue collar guy, and I think about things linearly, and it's like, I don't think most can fathom how big organizations run like companies, much less big associations. So if I can, I just want to take some time to make sure I have this right and that our audience understands. So my view of the world is we have two governing bodies kind of that go in concert, which is the board of directors, which McKay runs, and the staff, which you run, right? Staff is hired on and paid actors hired on by the board, which McKay represents. And then under the board is the hands and feet, which is us, the chapters, right? So and how big is, I think it's helpful. How big is your staff, Michael?
We have 10, so there's 16 people on the board, and those folks come from both the supplier and the contractor side. And then there's several people on the board who have been on both sides of the table. And so there's 16 people on the board, there's 10 people on my staff, and my staff, 2 of them actually came out of the industry. So Nick came from industry and has a good grounding in how both the supplier and the installer side works. And then Catherine Mills Reynolds, our director of public relations, or excuse me, government relations, came out of industry as well. So in terms of our staff, we have very good ties to how businesses work within the membership.
It's so funny you went there because like every time I hire somebody, my people always ask, well, what do they know about fence? And I always say, I don't care what they know about fence. I'll teach them fence. Like you hire leaders, you hire capable people, we'll teach them the fence side. So it's interesting. But just to be clear, I want to make sure I have this right because I actually don't know. And I've been, active now 2 years. I've been a 2 mid-year. I don't know. But you have a staff of, you said 10? That is independent of the board. The board is a staff of 6 volunteers. So we have 10 paid people under Michael, and then the board of 10 under McKay. 16. Is that right? 16. So there's 26 people running an organization with 1,000 members, right? They're in charge of thousands of members. So this is 1,000 person. I think it's really important for me as a guy that's running a 100-person company, which is unfathomable, I think, to a lot of fencers. Is like I can't even fathom how I would run an organization of 1,000 people. So let's just give that the context. I don't feel equipped to weigh in on that. And you asked me what my job is. I don't actually know. My job, I believe, is to carry out the intent of the board, right? So the board of directors casts us a vision. This is the priorities for this year. This is what we're doing for education. This is what we're doing for government. And then you guys set up committees, which I'm privileged to sit on too, and I'm thrilled about because I get to get my voice heard. I get to sit in meetings with Michael and bitch loudly when I think we're doing stupid stuff, right? Because I volunteered to be on these committees. We're doing the market research, which I'm pumped about. Guess what? I was pissed because you guys didn't give us any industry statistics. Like, come on, let's do that. So now we're doing that. That's awesome. And then we're doing the regulation stuff, which I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a little rant here. The regulatory wants and needs is so dynamic. Like everybody wants better regulation or no regulation or some regulation. And the amount of bureaucracy and like implementation to be effective is crazy, right? I don't know of one state that's well regulated for fence. I know of many states that aren't regulated for fence. So it's like, anyway, so I get to sit on those 2 committees and like, hopefully we're moving balls forward. That's a privilege because I got involved. That's great. Let me answer the question. Sorry, Michael. As a chapter president, I think my job is to carry out the intent of the board of directors, and period, end of sentence, is to get contractors engaged with the AFA of my local area. That's my job. And freaking A, that shouldn't be so hard. Gosh dang it. Like Shane Cotton in Indiana is doing something right. Kevin Hohe in Chicago is effed up worse than a freaking football bat. Like I can't get people to show up. So that's my job, man, is to get people to show up. And that is a hard freaking job. And I'm a really capable dude. I'll go ahead and say it. I'm having a hell of a time. So if you're in Chicago and you're listening to this and you don't show up to my meeting, I don't think less of you, but I wish you'd just show up. I really wish you'd just show up. Please, for the love of God, just show up and come and complain. That's your job. That's your job as a contractor. You want your voice to be heard? Join. It's not expensive. Hey, this is another secret. I think, Michael, and we should talk about this, you need to make it more expensive for guys like me, and you need to not nickel and dime me, because I would rather pay thousands of dollars for my membership and be able to send people easier. And I think we can affect that change, because guess what? I'm sitting here and I get to yell at you. I'm yelling at you.
So we are going to do a complete episode when we talk about the finances of the organization. So we're going to do that. That's so deep and it's got layers to it. So we're going to do that in a whole separate conversation. All right. So I think the last place that I'd like to leave on this is how, and you touched on a lot of it. So I'm going to summarize what you said in terms of how stuff gets done in the organization. because sometimes people complain that AFA is slow to move. And what I say is we represent at least 16 different constituencies, small owner operators on one end of the continuum, all the way to large executive C-suites for very large multinational corporations. And when you do that, sometimes when you have that broad of representation with that many voices to hear, it slows down either the decision-making process or you just take more things into consideration before you pull the trigger on things. And so my job as the executive, one of them, is to speed up that process. And we've done a good job of doing that when we can. But at the end of the day, when you're working on an industry research project that's going to touch contractors and it's going to touch people, and you're trying to create a product that is useful to both of them, guess what? You got to listen to a lot of people before you before you pull the trigger on it. And so that's really how the work gets done in AFA. There's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of listening. There's a lot of negotiation. And guess what? And this is the epitome of it. You put people in the room that have varying interests, and then you negotiate to a point. Sometimes neither one of the parties are happy, but you've got a good solid place where you can work from. And that is, people ask me what my job is. A lot of my job is consensus building and negotiation and making sure people are heard while we still move this battle group forward. We're not a cruise ship. We're not an aircraft carrier. We're a battle group, and we move that battle group forward and keep the ships together. Funny that three people carried rifles are talking about an evil battle group, but
are we all veterans? Hell yeah. McKay, are you an Army guy?
I'm Army. Yeah.
Oh, 2 armies and 1 freaking crayon eater. That's me.
Are you an Army guy? I thought you were an Army guy.
No, I'm Marine Corps. I'm a crayon eater.
Well,
you're Army, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey, can I just want to take one pause if I can, because I think there's a lot of heresy, and the proverbial, like, the bourgeois or the cabal that's in charge, the, like, old boys club that I heard about, like, and I've heard about it. Like, I just want to dismiss that as, like, I don't know. I've watched us be effective and ineffective. I don't know where that comes from. I just would like to advertise that right now, and I don't know who's it, and I'm in the throes of it. So the whole, like, it's the old boys club and they're all corrupting for their, like, it's so crazy because we, like, do this in our government too. Like, the human condition is, like, there's a big evildoer cabal that is colluding to keep this. I don't know. I understood that. I believe that because I was like, yeah, that's why it's ineffective. I would just like to put that rumor on its head. If it's there, you guys, McKay, you're a sleeper, and same with you, Michael Reed, because I can't find it. I don't know whose old boys club it is, and my favorite person, and I just want to, Bobby Batchelor, like, and what they do at Seeger's Fence, like, those guys are amazing, and I've watched the amazing people that are in the AFA, and I think it's bad that we all think that you guys are wherever that rumor got started. I would just like to say I'm a conspiracist. I don't think it's true, guys. It's not true.
Yeah.
From my findings.
It's definitely not true. I mean, there might have been some sense of that a decade ago. I remember how we did things, but you know what? We have a nominations committee now that grabs out and gets people to send in their willingness to serve. And they send those in. Anybody can do that. Some positions you have to have some qualifications for. And then that nominations committee whittles that down and does interviews with people. And they come up with the best folks and put them on a slate. And then they're elected by the current board and the chapter presidents. And I will tell you that we've added people over the last 3 or 4 years to our board that were nobodies, that nobody knew anything about them. And they came forward and have done amazing things for the association because of their skill set and their background. And if this was an old boys network, we would have never found them.
Yeah, and and the interesting, and I didn't even mean to go here. The thing I would tell anybody that's, like, thinking about participating is careful, because you raise your hand, and I'm sitting on this call because of that. Like, if you raise your hand, you're going to get pegged, and if you don't raise your hand, but you're talking, you're going to get. I want to be very clear. I didn't want to be chapter president. I showed up to one meeting, said one thing, and I'm chapter president. And what's interesting for our chapter is like all my people on my board, they're doing it out of obligation. They don't want to be there. Like I would love it if like some people came and wanted to like rejuvenate the board. So I think what's crazy is like if you raise your hand, you will have an impact. And I don't know what could more like be obvious that it's not a tight network. Like, we need, like, I think the hardest thing I have when we do a vote is getting people to vote, to exercise their voice. It's like we almost have to backdoor it because there's not participation, right? So I don't. It's crazy. But I do want to caution anybody that's getting involved is like you'll have to do something because like we need contribution. It seems very obvious to me that it's welcomed a little bit too much, even like you'll be doing work.
Yeah, that's great, Kevin. As people want to get involved and see what other chapters are doing. I mean, you're a member of the association, not just your chapter. So if you wanted to go to a great event like Carolinas by the Sea or the Texas gambling jackpot night or whatever they call that, and see what other chapters are doing and how they're doing it, you can sign up and go.
It's not called the gambling night.
And their events.
It's their casino night event. It's not not gambling.
Oh, okay. Casino night. Okay, there we go.
And Michael, while we're here, if somebody's listening and wants to get involved, like my advice would be go to the chapter meeting. Is that the right venue, or like, because I don't know, should they write you? Do we even have? I wouldn't even know. So
here's what's interesting. So at the end, there's various ways that we're out there, and my encouragement to everybody is contact me and I'll help you find the right place. That's like one of the messages that I have. I think that the way to do that is formally is through the willingness to serve, and that gets you kind of in the door. But I think also it's a little bit of we have room for you to come in and innovate, but we also have room where there's more room is for you to come in on projects that are established. And the example of that is, Kevin, when you said, hey, I heard about this industry research task force. I'd like to be on that. And we got you there. So a lot of it is it's not just a raise my hand and done. We've got to have a dialogue and say, what are your interests? But I think going to the chapter is a great first step because kind of that idea that all politics are local, I think the best part of AFA is that the local experience. And so I think getting involved at the chapter is a great experience, especially because then you're not overcommitting. You're committing right locally, and get involved in a service project, get involved in an education program, get involved in membership, trying to grow the membership at the chapter level. And I will just say that there are other chapters, Kevin, who are not having your experience. If you look at the Carolinas or you look at the Midwest chapter, the chapter of the year this year, Texas chapter is having a great experience. There are other people who aren't struggling in the way that you are. And we're going to get you the support that you need to be successful. But just recognize that a lot of it does depend on what you said. You got to get involved. You got to not sit at home. You got to get involved.
Yeah, and I would, another place they can get involved, Michael, is our special interest groups.
Yep.
We've got the young fence professionals, we've got the women in fence, we've got veterans in fence, and we've got the Hispanic fence professionals. I'd say, Kevin, as a chapter leader, why don't you have a young fence professional event and try to garner all the young fence professionals from your chapter area, and that's the chapter meeting for in a month or something. People need to find where they can be sticky to our association, where they feel like they belong, they can give something back, and they're getting something in return.
Yeah. So let me close with this section with just this idea that I've been starting to use when I'm either talking to members in their businesses. Like just last month, I was with Bobby Batchelor down in North Carolina with his team of estimators, and we were practicing. We were piloting some new sales training that we're developing. And so I was presenting some of that, and they asked about AFA. And the way I explained it this way is we're on this industry journey together. All of us are on this journey, and we have the opportunity to kind of move the industry forward and have impact and create impact, but we're going down this road together. And sometimes you're going to fall off the road and it's going to be a tragedy. It's going to be something personal. It's going to be something in your business. And I'm going to be there to pull you back on path. And then further down the road, I'm going to fall off. And guess what? You're going to be there to pull me back on the path so that we can continue the journey together. And I think that's the spirit of AFA. So one of the things we're talking about here is, what do you actually get out of it? And I think what you get out of it is the ability to be on this path together with other people and go down the journey together. And guess what? We're not always going to get along, but that's life. The opportunity to practice leadership and to practice trying new things and expanding your mindset, that's what AFA ultimately is about.
Heck yeah. I believe it. I believe it.
All right. So let's bring this home. We're almost about people's the length of a decent truck ride or car ride if people are on their way somewhere. When we think about the future, I want to lay out the 4 kind of things that we're working on that are innovative within our space. And that is helping people think about the customer experience and focus on the customer experience, because ultimately a better customer experience leads to greater business. And so the growth piece that we're talking about is, how do you use Net Promoter Score and benchmark your Net Promoter Score against others in the industry? So I want to kind of plant the seed for that in the future. This idea of having a tool that you can use to understand your customer experience better and then improve it. So that's one innovation that's coming out this year. The second is, Kevin, what you've mentioned a couple of times, this idea of research, this idea of being able to name how big our industry is, and here are the definitions, and here how we're defining it. That is so valuable to people, whether you're trying to scale your business or you're on the other end trying to provide a value to your business. Knowing where your business sits within the broader ecosystem is important. And then this final idea of this being a career. One of the things we're tasked with is keeping good people in our industry. And through our education and certification programs and delivering that online and good in-person education, those are the things that we really think will add value to members. So I'd like you all to kind of speculate about the future and where are we going as an organization from your perspective? What's exciting to you? And where let's leave people with something to chew on in terms of, geez, I had no idea AFA was doing that. That's really pretty cool. So McKay, you go first on this and let because you're more tapped into those conversations that are happening, and then Kevin can add salt and pepper to your comments.
Okay. Well, I just want to refer back to something Kevin said earlier about our membership, that we're not an individual membership.
That's right.
Association. We're a company membership. So we have almost 1,600 companies, and that company could be an owner-operator company. It could be a company like Kevin's that has 125 employees, I think you said, or it could be like a Ameristar or LiftMaster that has thousands of employees. Right. And so our industry is representing tens of thousands of actual individuals and families. And the exciting thing where I see us going as an association are things like government relations. Some of these things that we've been able to go in and correct, that Catherine has worked with, like the New York chapter, and then she's been working with the California chapter on some other things, and there's some other, and the Florida chapter. We've been able to solve some real headaches for our contractors out there. As I look at the customer experience that you mentioned, this fence pulse that we're going to deploy to allow you to get instant feedback from your customers on how you're doing to improve your business. Again, if feedback is a gift, in my opinion, whether it's negative or positive or in between, it's a gift because it allows you then to evaluate who you are, what you're doing, and where you need to go, and how to improve to get to that next level. So I'm really excited about that. I'm also excited about, as it's been mentioned, the industry research part where we can really dive in and understand who our industry is, how big it is, and what are the key factors driving it. And then when we have an issue like most recently, the tariff issue that has bubbled up that nobody saw coming, that's just creating a bit of havoc right now in our industry, well, we should be able to have somebody that can refer back to that, give some guidance and some expertise on those kind of things. And so as we try to understand this and we give nuggets back to each of our constituents, whether it's a large mega million international corporation in our industry or an owner operator, we're trying to span the breadth and the width of this association and provide value to each of them in where they're at. I love the idea also of our career pathway that Nick has put together for us. I mean, it allows me, if I'm here at this level, I can look at that career pathway and say, oh, I need to go get this training, this certification, I need these experience so that in 8 years, in 15 years, this is where I can be. And it allows people to see the future. I think that's one of the biggest things of our manpower shortage or workplace shortage is that we just hire people and want them to go do a job. We don't provide in our companies a vision for what they can be if they stick with our company, and we're going to provide you the training and stick with the association that in 10 years, this is where you can be if this is what you want to do, versus doing the same old for the next 35 years and retiring.
Right. Thanks. So wrap it up from your point of view, Kevin. What do you find exciting when you're involved in these conversations? What's exciting to you about the future of AFA?
Man, I was sitting here trying to figure out how to be brief, Mike, and I don't know. I look forward to the ability, if you'll have me, because I think there's so much more that we have to say than can be said right now, and I'm trying to consolidate my thoughts to say it succinctly. But what am I most excited for? For one thing, I want to do is because we have all these balls in the air, and I don't think anybody. If I was listening to this, I'd be, "What are you guys talking about? This net promoter thing?" And Bobby did this. I think this was Bobby's gift to the AFA, and I think it's huge. So I just want to make sure I'm categorizing this correctly. But the members, we're all going to be able to get feedback from our customer and then rack and stack ourselves based on customer feedback, like voice. Correct. So essentially, we're doing a VOC, and I can't remember. It's an NPS. You guys are going to have that available to us, where we will be able to like compare ourselves to our competitors nationally, right? And the best contractors are going to be able to be recognized. I think that's so cool. I don't know how it's going to work. I know how simple it sounds, right? Let's get customer feedback. That's a very easy process, but to do that at an association level is a tremendous undertaking. So I'm super thrilled for that. I just want to and I don't exactly know how it's going to work. And I even volunteered to be as a beta. So I don't know when that rolls out, but that's super exciting.
So we're gonna bring it out to a small group of people between now and mid-year, and that will be the final. That's kind of the final beta test for it, and then into summer, beginning of fall, when people start to come off their season and have a little bit more time to think about things, then we'll have that it's called Fence Pulse, and you called it. It's how do you take customer feedback to improve your own operations and customer experience, and then benchmark against the other people in your area and across the country, with the idea of being that the little friendly competition makes everybody better.
Yeah, I wish, and yeah, I could see so many people thinking that that's not revolutionary. As somebody that's failed to implement their own NPS effectively, like That's super cool. And then I think that's just one of many things. And I think what's really interesting is like the world is changing fast. Like the defense environment is different 10 years ago than it was 20 years ago than it was 50 years ago. And what I really and at the risk of people thinking that I'm a fanboy, I'm not. I'm here because I was anti-AFA. Period. End of sentence. I was anti-AFA and I wanted to be part of it. But what I really am truly thrilled about, and Michael, if I thought you were a dirtbag, I would say it on air. I think you're a really great leader. I really do. And that's what I'm most excited about, because there's an agility to your leadership, right? And I think it's important that this was birthed out of kind of some derogatory remarks that needed to be addressed. And I think you did it in a momentous way. And I only got involved with this because I was like, we're going to miss this moment. And you didn't. I think you capitalized in like a really awesome way. And what has emerged out of somebody incidentally bashing the AFA is now we're going to go put the AFA out there, right? And I think this is overdue. So now you're going to come and preach the message. And now as a chapter leader, it's easier for me to help other people understand what's going on, right? So I think I don't want to get too lost. What I'm saying is I'm excited because the industry is changing, the environment is changing, right? AI is here. Everything that we do is different. It was way different. You used to have to advertise in a phone book, right? Now it's Google, and now AI. Who the hell knows what? And like what I take great comfort in is there's a leadership structure in place that's going to adapt, right? We're going to be agile and we're going to grow into ourselves. And I think I believe firmly that instead of being one of two associations that collectively capture maybe 5 to 10%, I think there's a real probability that in 5-10 years that we capture closer to 50%, and the voice of the contractors heard, and that everything I've been kind of preaching actually comes to fruition, and that the environment with which we operate is better as a result of the association's strength and all of their initiatives. So not one initiative excites me particularly. But I know that we're growing, and I think when we're adapting and we're evolving, I think that's the biggest thing. Is that it really is. This is an evolutionary period for the AFA. I think that really started with your leadership, Michael. Frankly, because I could see the growth from one mid-year to the other, right? Or like, yeah, I mean, the communication from staff to board to chapters vastly improved. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Now I understand. Like, and so, yeah, I think. I'll shut up. I think the AFA is going to evolve appropriately, and they're going to meet the task. And I'm excited to be a part of it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. So I'm glad you're having an experience where you recognize the effort in terms of this organization. I will say that I stand on the shoulders of giants. I inherited a pretty well-run organization from both a governance standpoint and from a staff standpoint. The folks that came before me did a good job. Now what we're doing is we're trying to put this into hyperdrive and build the organization that can be dynamic and nimble for the future. So appreciate you saying all of that, because that was a good way to wrap up this first episode of AFA Today. This is an effort, this was born out of something that was a people dissenting. And I think that's great. I mean, my feeling on this is that if you stop talking and stop listening, then you don't get anywhere forward. I love what you said earlier today about going up and shaking hands with one of your primary competitors.
It was bitter, man. It was bitter. I want to make sure we're clear, if I can, and I don't know how this gets edited, but like, some of the accusations sounded something like that we should go spend a bunch of money to be social media influencers. And I just want to make sure that we're clear that's not what we're doing. But that's what we are going to do here, I think, Michael, if I'm on this ride with you, is communicate the message of the AFA. Like, we're going to put ourselves out on social. Like, we don't need to be social media influencers. Neither of us are. Neither of us want to be. But I do think we need to do better on communication. And I think this is a great first step, Mike. I think this is huge. Like, to communicate the message of the AFA instead of it being behind curtains. So yeah, I'm like really proud that you took it this way, and it's a privilege. I would just say this, like, it really is a privilege for me to have a voice in our industry. It's so important to me, right? I mean, it's how I feed my family. Like, so thanks for the venue, and yeah, I mean, this is a great first step. So I'm hopeful to be on more of these if you'll have me.
I'm very happy to have you here, and you will. I think that's how we've structured this moving forward, is that there's a voice here that will swap out. It won't always be the president, but I'd like to keep you and I moving forward, Kevin, you and I moving forward on this. McKay, let me turn this over to you to close up this first episode.
Well, thank you, Michael. I just want to say to Kevin, thanks for jumping on board. I loved your comments earlier about how you were griping and you were complaining, and that you decided to become part of the solution to make the whole industry and the association better. So thank you for being willing to swallow your pride a little bit and then say, hey, I have something to offer. And it's been incredible so far, some of the task forces you've been on and some of the input you've been given. I appreciate that a lot. And I'm sure we'll get more than 10 people at your next meeting. How about that?
That's what we're going for.
So in closing, I just want to say, the AFA, we've had a tagline about where you belong, where you grow, where you lead, and where you succeed. There's a place for you. Even if you don't feel like, hey, we're meeting all your needs, you can be just like Kevin and come and help us figure out how to change what we're doing to meet more needs. Sometimes we don't know all the situations out there. And as we address them through our committees and our task forces and our chapters and our special interest groups, we're able to solve problems. Going back to our initial reason for why was the AFA created back in 1962, it was to solve some problems. And we have problems, and they're new problems. How do we implement AI? What does that look like for our association and our industry? Those are things that we're on the cutting edge of, and we're trying to find the right solution to help grow your business, help grow our industry, and make it safer and better for the whole country. So thanks for watching. If you're watching this, stay tuned. We're going to have many of these to learn from. And I think what's also important is we're going to try to communicate on a regular basis with these. But if you've got a question, if you've got an issue, if you've got a grind, reach out to Michael or myself or a board member or chapter president. Let's get some answers for you. You don't need to be stewing there thinking that nobody cares. We're a conspiracy that's trying to move a different direction than you want to go. Reach out and we'll help you become part of the solution, and you'll bring something to our attention maybe that we haven't even realized. So thank you both for what you're doing for our association.
Well, and thank you both for helping make the world a safer, more beautiful place. Thanks for doing this first episode of AFA Today, and stay tuned for the next episode.
See ya.
Thanks
Thanks, guys.